It's been a while since I've made an Apex Legends tier list, but to be fair, for the last couple of seasons, we hadn't received as many new legends or really big meta shifts. But now that we have 25 legends, I think it's about time that I update the legends tier list. As usual, this tier list is based on how the legends perform at the highest level. We're talking in high level ranked and in tournaments. And as someone who hosts tournaments, and as someone who could now say that they're a professional caster, look at that cutie on the Twitch rival stage, I do keep up heavily with high-level Apex Legends content. Also, as usual, for lower tier legends, I will suggest ideas for buffs, and for S tier legends, I'll also suggest ideas for nerfs, because I like balance, okay? And please remember, this is just my opinion, so feel free to disagree in the comments. But do so without making fun of my stupid face, okay? So, without further ado, let's start the tier list, shall we? F tier. The legends in this tier are borderline useless, and for the longest time, no legend ever really belonged here. But today, we have one exception, and boy is it a fall from grace. Our worst legend is without a doubt Seer. Seer used to be a must pick as part of the Seer Catalyst meta that reigned supreme for, honestly, way too long. Now his passive doesn't provide any useful info, his tactical scan has no range, and is easily avoided. Seriously, landing this requires the enemy to just be standing still. So now it's just an inferior Bloodhound scan. It doesn't prevent revives, but now it shuts down the enemy's abilities who are hit, which is cool, but like I said, since it's not easy to land, that really won't matter, right? Also, his ultimate is significantly worse due to not working with Catalyst Wall anymore. The ultimate won't scan people who are healing, and unless they're shooting, it only shows footsteps. So it's really only good when people are shooting, but if they're shooting, you can pretty much figure out where they are. Seer is just outclassed in every way, and in my opinion, he was overnerfed. And rightfully so, because his entire kit was kind of a mess in the first place. One buff they could give him is potentially an extra tactical, so he can maybe land it more, but I really think there's no way to make Seer good again without a complete redesign of his kit. When scan legends are meta, they're really just not fun to play against, but until they figure out what to do with him, he's at the bottom of this tier list. Now we have D tier. These legends are pretty bad, with one or two decent aspects to their kits, but in general, you'd rather not use these legends at all. At the bottom of D tier, we have, of course, the king of D tier, Mirage.
You got bamboozled, look at you.
Mirage's entire kit is just predictable. Nobody at the highest level is getting bamboozled in 2023, and his ultimate seems good in theory, but the moment you're found, you're dead. Mirage just isn't really good at anything, except his passive, which lets him revive invisibly. But even then, he's outclassed. In a team-based game, characters like Mirage just don't do much for the team, and that holds them back drastically. So my main suggestion is one I've suggested before, and it's allowing him to make clones of his teammates, because that will actually trick enemies. I also think he should have 2 decoys on cooldown, like how Bangalore has 2 smokes, or how Catalyst has 2 of her traps. Why does he have 1 clone? It's a clone. This way he can just create more chaos and more effectively escape enemies. Please, Apex, I know you won't do it, but wouldn't it be funny if Mirage was meta for like a season? Next up, we have one of our newest legends, Ballistic. Ballistic realistically has 2 abilities because his passive is having a 3rd weapon that you're never really going to use until you use your ultimate. Nobody is swapping to the sling weapon mid-fight, let's be real. And while his ultimate is cool in theory, in practice it's not really that strong. His tactical, the Whistler, it's okay, but good players can usually avoid overheating. So what does he need to be better? For starters, a better passive. Let him keep his 3rd weapon, that's fine, but he should be the full-on weapon expert. Here's my suggestion. Let him have the ability to dual wield pistols. If your sling weapon is an RE45, Mozambique, P2020, or Wingman, and your primary weapon is the same, you should have the option to dual wield at the cost of not being able to aim down sights. This would obviously need tweaks for balance, but I think it could make him very scary to fight against. Cause come on, he's supposed to be Apex Legends John Wick. And at the top of D tier, we have Ashe. I think if any legend deserves a Revenant Reborn treatment, it's Ashe. Her passive exists. I mean, it's cool. You can like scan death boxes, I guess. And her tactical is slow, avoidable, and kind of lame. Her ultimate, however, is good. But let's be honest, there's better movement characters and better portals. Ashe is a perfect example of a character with one thing going for her, and even then it's still not enough. She needs a new passive and a new tactical. She's a freaking pilot, man. Let her be free. If anyone should double jump, it's her. But if they want to keep her as is, then they can at least make her tactical shoot faster with a slightly wider radius. I also think a cool thing they could do with her ultimate is give her Ronin Titan's sword core. So the moment she teleports with her portal, all of her melees are with her sword, which makes her melees a bit stronger for just a short amount of time. Anything to make her more and more like her Ronin Titan would make me happy. A Titanfall fan can dream. Now we have C tier. These legends are playable with mediocre kits that are outclassed by higher tier legends. Picking them isn't a complete throw, but there are better options. At the bottom of C tier, we have Vantage. Vantage has a sniper, and that sniper is pretty cool, but everything else is mid. Her movement is just a worse Revenant movement in every way. Her passive, I bet you don't even know what it is. Don't look it up. Tell me what it is. Yeah. Exactly. There are just better movement legends, and while her sniper is unique and pretty fun to use, it's not enough of a reason to choose her over a lot of better legends. So here's some cool buff ideas. Make her move more. Her little bat Echo, it limits the way that she can move. So what if there was an option to let Echo follow you close by? That would make her movement a lot faster. Also, remove the stupid windup that she does before she uses her tactical. And one more small thing I would add is the ability to toggle on and off the scope of her sniper. I know, seems blasphemous, but in the final ring, you're not going to be using a sniper. Let me just have iron sights for the close range fights sometimes. But until they let her really schmoove, she's at the bottom of C tier. Next in C tier, we have Lifeline. Lifeline has not changed much at all, so I'm not saying anything too new here. Her revive is dope, and her drone is fine, but her ultimate is not it. The care package is such an outdated ultimate. Sure, it gives you smart loot, but it also gives you blue armors, which should never be a thing. At minimum, Lifeline's ultimate should give purple armors. I don't care if the whole squad is wearing white armor. If I'm waiting 3 minutes for this stupid package, give me purple. But really, the ultimate should just be replaced with something that goes along the lines of combat medic, because right now, that role is not her, it's Newcastle. When the 3 strikes limited time mode was here, Lifeline was a must pick, and it was because her revive was near instant and her teammates couldn't be thirsted. What if she had a new ultimate that allowed for her to temporarily stop enemies from thirsting your teammates and allowed you to revive faster? I think this would create some insane scenarios where Lifeline uses her ultimate and the enemy realizes that they have to kill her first to win this fight, especially if she has a gold knockdown shield. That might be a little broken, but maybe the dev team will figure out a way to make it balanced and not super annoying. I don't care as long as she gets to truly become a combat medic. Up next, we have Octane. Octane's in a weird spot. On one hand, he's easily the most fun character to play, but on the other hand, he's just outclassed by every other movement legend and needs some love. Any nerf he received before was because of the combination that he had with the old Revenant. But since that Revenant doesn't exist, you could just revert all those nerfs back. Right off the bat, make it so his stim takes less damage, and his ultimate can have a shorter cooldown again. Just being able to use his abilities more could help Octane see some higher level play. But in order for him to become meta, he might need some reworks as well. But until then, he's comfortably in C tier. Our next legend in C tier is Fuse. Fusey has so much potential, and some high level teams have tested him in ALGS to varying degrees of success. He's great at racking up damage and the king of breaking doors, which I'll explain why that matters in S tier. And his ultimate, I think, is underrated. But I really think what holds him back is himself. He burns himself with his ultimate and every explosive that he shoots. In his cinematic, he survives the craziest explosions. So my suggestion is to go all in on that. Give him an additional passive that allows for him to take significantly less explosive damage and fire damage. Also, make him straight up immune to his own ultimate. I think with just these changes alone, he can be higher tier. But I have one more idea that will make him even better. He should be able to charge any grenade in his hand so that it explodes in front of him and creates a force-like effect that allows for him to, you guessed it, rocket jump. I'm never giving up on this. Hashtag let Fuse rocket jump. Next, we have Loba. I think people overrate Loba. Her movement is mid, her passive sucks, so really all people care about is her ultimate and other things about her. And even her ultimate is really only an ammo machine. I think for Loba to feel better, they need to make her bracelet work more consistently while letting her maintain her momentum. Also, her black market should let her take more items if they're lower rarity. For example, you can take 2 gold and purple items, or 3 blue items, or 4 common items. Sometimes I just want syringes, okay? And at the top of C tier, we have Valkyrie. Valkyrie at one point was a must pick, so she received nerfs to her ultimate, which did hurt her usage a bit, but the biggest nerf came in the form of a survival item, the Evac Tower. This item made Valkyrie redundant, and now she's really never needed, as you can have 3 Valk ults in the back pocket. It's honestly unfair. Imagine having a zipline or a smoke or a bubble as a survival item. It would make so many other legends obsolete as well. But the Evac Tower is here to stay, so how can Valkyrie ever be meta again? You'd have to make her ultimate faster and better than an Evac Tower. Simple as that. Until then, she's been outclassed by an item and sits at the top of C tier. Now we have B tier. B tier legends are good, but they just have some flaws that hold them back. However, every now and then, they will see niche play at the highest level. Up first, we have Mad Maggie. Mad Maggie is used as sort of an anti-meta pick at times, and was used often at the peaks of the Seer meta. She's still great for breaching enemies inside with her ultimate and burning people with her drill behind cover, but she wouldn't mind some small buffs. My suggestion would be to increase the range and width of the fire that comes out of her drill. I also think a cool thing they could add to her ultimate is the ability for it to get rid of Bangalore's smokes if it rolls through it, as a sort of soft counter to Bangalore. These changes could give her a shot at the big times again, but for now, she's at the bottom of B tier. Next, we have Wattson. Wattson's not bad, she's just outclassed by multiple legends who can just hold rooms better than she can, and aren't as reliant on their ultimates to do so. However, I don't think I would touch her with a buff or a nerf. Wattson is in a spot where if you buff her too much, she becomes very strong very easily. Maybe I would increase the amount of shields her ultimate supplies to the team, but otherwise, I like what they're doing with her, and she's comfortably a B tier legend. Next, we got Pathfinder. Pathfinder in the hands of a skilled player can do work. His movement is unmatched, and his ziplines feel fantastic, but they're just not the safest rotation option. Other legends can move their team without fear of being shot off a zipline, and that's ultimately what holds him back. My only real suggestion for a buff is that he finally gets a real passive respawn. It's been years. Give Pathfinder a passive. What is going on? Now we have Rampart. Rampart, I think, is a sleeper pick, and players at the highest level just aren't experimenting enough with her. Her cover is fantastic. Her ultimate, Sheila, can be game-winning. With Sheila, she has the ability to destroy doors with ease, and as I mentioned before, destroying doors is a big deal in this meta. I do think people will eventually wake up and realize that Rampart is a lot better than you think. However, one buff I would give her to make her significantly better is to allow Sheila to charge in a similar vein to Vantage's ultimate, where you can use it whenever you want, and it gains like 4 ammo every 5 seconds. This way you can have it whenever you need it, and you don't need to even worry about placing it down. But I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some Rampart in ALGS tournaments next year. The next legend in B tier is Gibraltar. Gibraltar's entire kit is good, so I do think he's just in a position where higher tier legends provide a similar role without the drawback of having a hitbox the size of Texas. His bubble is still great for helping your team rotate, and his ultimate is great for spacing, so he definitely can still provide a team with a ton of value. He's just simply outclassed. I don't think he needs any buffs though. He's in a great spot and is just waiting for the meta to shift and need him again. Next is Crypto. Crypto's drone is a blessing and a curse. The scans and EMP are fantastic, but they're just a little too passive most of the time to be worth running. However, he is the anti-meta pick if the meta ever shifts towards trappers and campers again. So while he is B tier, he has the potential to go to A or even S tier if the meta shifts to a Wattson Caustic meta, as that's when his EMP is the greatest. Until then, he sits comfortably in B tier, and he doesn't need any buffs because, trust me, you don't want a crypto meta. Up next, we have Newcastle. As I said before, Newcastle is the real combat medic. His revive is so strong, and his ability to defend his team is unmatched. So why isn't he A or S tier? Well, it's because his ultimate is kind of hit or miss on how strong it can actually be, and is very reliant on the location of the final ring in a match. Sometimes his ultimate will be the reason you win, and other times it's pretty useless. He could maybe use a slight buff to his tactical's health because sometimes that thing breaks a little bit too easily, but overall, I do think he's in a good spot and deserves to be in B tier. And finally, at the top of B tier, we have Caustic. Caustic is the king of the indoors. His traps provide a ton of defense, his ultimate can be used offensively and defensively, and as a controller, he can find out where the ring ends and set up in zone. However, he's not great in the open, and is outclassed by another legend who's just better at holding down buildings with ease. The only buff I would give him is just increasing the health of his traps. They break way too easily now, but otherwise, he's sitting comfortably at the top of B tier. Now we have A tier. A tier legends are all great and don't need buffs or nerfs. They're what all legends should strive to be. Great legends, but not overpowered or broken legends. At the bottom of A tier, we have Wraith. Wraith's portal distance goes pretty freaking far, and it was a big buff that makes her horizontal rotations the safest in the game. Her tactical is a great option for being aggressive, but still escaping with your life. The only real thing holding her back from seeing more usage is just how dominant the S tier legends are. But hey, A tier is a pretty solid tier to be in. Next, we have none other than Revenant Reborn. Revenant's rework is the biggest buff ever seen in Apex Legends. Because Revenant before for years was consistently a D tier legend. But finally, after a huge rework, he's gotten so much more powerful, and in the right hands, he's nuts. With easily some of the best movement in the game, coupled with an ultimate that just lets you be aggressive and secure knocks left and right. Is his entire kit selfish? Yes, but there's a reason that so many people have been using him at the highest levels of ranked. Now, he's a bit untested in ALGS, but I do think he could provide a niche role. But time will tell. Either way, we can't deny the power of Revenant Reborn. Next, we have the newest legend, Conduit. This might be a hot take, but I think Conduit's way more busted than most people have given her credit for, myself included. Her tactical alone is great, but it's the ultimate that has surprised me. It creates so much space and is annoying as hell to deal with. It has a ton of health, so it's not just this thing you can just shoot at and get rid of. I really think more pros should be trying her in tournaments because there's something about her kit that feels like it could be the next big thing. But I could also be very, very wrong, and she could easily be way lower in the tiers. But time will tell. And finally, at the top of A tier, we have Bloodhound. Scan abilities are broken. Seer is no longer good. Therefore, Bloodhound is broken. That is simple mathematics. Thankfully, Bloodhound isn't a must pick on most team dynamics, but they are the only legend that lets you see through smokes without digital threats. Bloodhound is finally better than Seer, but not so strong that they're broken. So thank the Apex gods we aren't in a scan meta anymore. For now. Now we have S tier. S tier legends are must picks, and these three legends can be used as a full team composition to great effect at the highest level. They all need slight or big nerfs, or just more legends to counter them. First off, in S tier, we have Horizon. Horizon's entire kit has always been great. Her passive lets her move so smoothly, her ultimate can single-handedly win fights by itself, but what makes her overpowered is her tactical, which gives your whole team insane mobility on a short cooldown. It's great when you're going for pushes or just running away. Any which way you use it, the tactical is great. Horizon's only real weakness is horizontally and with big rotations. But when she's combined with the next two legends, those weaknesses don't matter. So you really have a legend that can do it all. The only real nerf that I would suggest is maybe making her ultimate a little bit easier to destroy, because right now, yes, you can destroy it, but it takes like a whole clip, and that matters. But until then, Horizon is at the bottom of S tier. Next up in S tier is Catalyst. Catalyst is essentially a legend with two tacticals. Yes, you heard me right. Her passive to block doors is better than a lot of tacticals in the game, and is the main reason that other legends can't stand a chance versus her at occupying a building. Then she has her own traps that also let her lock down an area with ease. And once you need to rotate to a new location, you have her ultimate, the big goo wall. This just creates so much free space and safe rotations to wherever you need to go. I think the nerf that she needs is a nerf to her passive. She should only be able to block one door at a time. None of this blocking 3 doors with a passive. It's just not fair. It's a passive. But until they do something about her, she's S tier for sure. And finally, at the top of the tier list is none other than Bangalore. Even after the Season 19 patch notes came out and they tried to nerf her double time, Bangalore is still incredible. Her passive lets her move like crazy. Her ultimate creates a ton of free space. The smokes are an incredible rotation tool. They're great defensively, and when paired with a digital threat, they're even strong on the offensive. However, Bangalore had all this forever and wasn't really a meta threat until recently. So what gives? The beginning shift was the combination with Seer. I think Seer just brought to light how good Bangalore was. But on top of that, one of the biggest shifts is the pro players' reliance on controller over mouse and keyboard. Majority of pro Apex players are on controller. And you know what smokes do? They make aim assist not work when you're in smokes. So if you pair that with all the great that the smokes provide, you have a legend who slowly made her way to the top. The one nerf that I would suggest is giving more legends the ability to get rid of the smoke. That's, in my opinion, the biggest problem. Like I said earlier, maybe Mad Maggie's ultimate can dissipate the smoke. Whatever it is, she just needs more counterplay that isn't just finding a digital threat, because digi threats are really just luck of the draw. But until more legends can counter her, she sits comfortably at the top of S tier. Shock, drop, and lock. That is my Season 19 Apex Legends tier list. Do you agree with my list? Do you disagree? Please make your own tier list in the comments down below. I really do enjoy reading your guys' comments, just as long as you don't make fun of my ugly face. Please, stop. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you later.